Welcome to the Hi-Fi of Customer Experience, a podcast brought to you by cxmlab.com. It will be a short, sharp, and interactive podcast with some of the best minds in the business, and we will take 5 key questions. CXM Lab is a platform to express thoughts, ideas, and tools that drive customer experience and will enable marketers, CIOs, CTOs, and CDOs to think, reflect, and make the right choices for their brands and organizations. For more insights, you can log on to cxmlab.com. Today, I'm very excited to have Carla Gentry with us, a data scientist and a self-professed or self-called data nerd. Welcome, Carla. Welcome to cxmlab.com.
Thank you. I think it's a self-proclaimed data nerd. Think about it as a kid when you were blowing the curve and running away from all the bullies. Who knew, 50 years later, you would be well known and I could say, Google me now. But, things have changed quite a bit, which leads into your first question.
Yes. Carla, you kind of started your journey in analytics when most people didn't know of it almost 20 years back. And I've worked with Fortune 100 and 500 companies like Discover Financial Services, J&J, Hershey, Kraft, Kellogg's, McNeil, Firestone, and many more. How, in your opinion, has the practice evolved over the years, over the last 2 decades?
Well, in 1998, so actually this is my 23rd year in data science.
Okay.
In 98, everything was run on a mainframe. Most of the programs that were used were SAS or just pure SQL. You would go in and use like a VI or a Pico to load the data on a DLT tape, and then you would run your analysis. There were VI and Pico commands like a ukick. A ukick would be you'd kick off the program and then you would go home because it was going to run all night long. So the biggest changes in data science and analytics have been the ability to actually aggregate and compile this data very quickly. So thanks to the addition of these really cool super fast chips and these really, really super fast computers, now we can do in seconds what it would take me days to do 23 years ago. So that's the biggest impact in what has changed. Now, schemas, data relationships, that part hasn't changed. We still need to think about when we set up tables in a data warehouse or in a database, we have to think about how these tables are connected. Do we have a common variable that links these tables together? That's how you get insight. If you just have one table and it's a standalone kind of an orphan table by itself, you're going to get very little information out of it. But if you have a unique quantifier or a semi-unique quantifier, something that is shared like an employee ID number or a customer ID number, and that'll lead us into your last question, we will be able to track that information throughout its whole entire life cycle. We'll know when we got that customer. We'll know how much that customer buys. We'll know everything about them, and we can market to them better. Yeah. So, it's some things have changed, speed, but some things haven't changed, the ability to understand the hierarchy of data.
Yeah. Carla, just demystify data analytics for us.
In my opinion, data analytics is very simplistic. You want to be able to know everything about whatever it is, whether it's a research project, whether it's a customer, whether it's just looking at internal data. So I think the scary part for people is, oh my God, there's so much. Yeah. Well, SQL can handle millions and millions of rows in seconds. So it being a lot of data is no longer a factor. We can't say that we have analysis paralysis because there's just so much data for us to comprehend. That's just not true. You have to know the right questions to ask. Who is my biggest spender? Well, that's just the frequency. Yeah. We could do a cross tabulation. Here's my customer over here. Here's the amount they spent. I sort to the top. I have my highest customer. Now, of course, it's a little more complex than that when you're coding, because you want to be able to join your tables. And everybody gets lost in the concept between a full join or a left join or a right join or an inner join. That really just talks about the variables. If I say I want a full outer join, I'm going to get every variable from every table that I query. If I do an inner join, I'm only going to get those variables that are in each and every table. It's pretty simplistic. If you're scared, if you're nervous, run a full join. You're probably, your database administrator or your IT department is going to yell at you for, doing so much at one time and taxing the system. But you'll see that all you have is repeated variables throughout your Excel spreadsheet or your Tableau document, because we do all this stuff in Hadoop or SQL or Python, but ultimately it has to end up in something that the customer can use, like Excel or Tableau, so we can visualize it. So the demystification comes in being able to look at this data on a graphical basis and going, ooh, there's a spike. What happened there? Ooh, there's a trough. What happened there? So visualizations lead you to dig further. What's going on? What happened? How can I find out more information?
Interesting.
So that's my simplest explanation.
Carla, you over the last 2 decades worked with various business leaders. Do share your thoughts on how business leaders need to think on developing connected data and digital strategies, which cut across systems and add value to the organizations.
Right. Well, you have those overly aggressive business leaders that want the newest and the greatest technology without thinking that the fact that their company is on a legacy system and that it's going to be incompatible. So I've had to actually go back to the beginning and say, okay, let's think of this simplistically. We have a legacy system. What can we join with? So you look at what you already have. It's like a gap analysis. Here's where we need to be. Here's what we want. What do we have versus what do we need? So I've had to reel back a few business people in my lifetime, of course, to say, we just can't do that. It would cost millions of dollars. And I'm still not sure it would work. It's like the demystification of machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's all great, but it's how you script it in and how the data is perceived. You have to make sure that when a machine is quote unquote learning, and when I say quote unquote, machines don't learn. They see patterns, and only because you ask them to. They only do what you query them to do. They only have data that you input. They only have information that you give them information on. If you're going to redefine this variable as a new name, then now the computer thinks of it as that new name. It didn't learn anything. So it's not a person, but computers are vital in being able to see what it is that we want. So we have to think the capabilities versus money versus time versus expertise. We need to get a system that our people are going to be able to use and use from day one. I love Cognos, but it is a bear to install. You need aftercare support because Cognos it encompasses and works with your entire system. Versus something like a Python. A Python, if you're using Anaconda or you have like a notebook, a Jupyter notebook, that's something we all can share. It doesn't have to be complex. We can make it very simplistic. But hey, if you really want to get simplistic, let's pull the entire database into something like Tableau, which can handle millions of records, and let's look at it visually. So for each job that I've had, I've run into different mindsets. The more money they have, the more money they want to put into it. But that's not always necessary. So think about the gap analysis. Where do we want to be in 5 years? We may need to get rid of that legacy system if we want to make major changes for the upcoming years ahead. So you really have to always think about data science and analytics like chess. You have to think 3 moves ahead. That's the only way you're going to win.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well said, Carla. Data analytics, technology, automation are all kind of buzzwords organizations use very loosely. But the challenge today that most organizations are facing is how do they extract value and how do they generate revenues out of these technologies, this vast amount of data and the kind of analytics and the kind of visualization tools that are put to use. What would be your advice to analytics heads and their many of them who are coming up in India and trying to create a data driven ecosystem within their organizations and carry a huge burden of expectations from their CEOs? What would be your advice to them?
My advice to them would be keep it simple. Trying to make things complex when complexity is not necessary is a waste of time. If we're looking at artificial intelligence and machine learning, we can think about chat bots. The customer has a question. It's the same question that gets answered of you 100 times a day. That's a good candidate for a virtual response.
Yeah.
If it comes about that there's a question that's not in our treasure trove of questions, then they would need a customer service representative. So free up your employees to be able to answer the questions that need one-on-one answers. Like, what time are you open? What are your hours? Stuff like that. That could be automated, like simple questions like, my electricity is down. I just want to report that. Most electric bureaus use artificial intelligence and chatbots because they want to be able to free up their employees to answer the more difficult questions. So, think about it, keeping it simple and making sure that we're looking at the information we want to collect. I've had many people over the past years go, here, I have your name and email address. Tell me everything about them. Well, I can tell you their name and email address, but aside from that, you really want to be able to collect that information. Now, we're all scared, of giving personal information, but that's like our credit card numbers, our bank accounts, but they would be more than willing to tell you the name of their dog, what their hobbies are and things like that. Now you have insight to who this person really is. Think about that and think about how, like with Discover Financial Services, they have affinity cards. So way back when in, late 1998, 99, when I was working with Discover, they ask questions like, what are your interests? And you go, why would a credit card company want to know what I'm interested in? Because they come out with these affinity cards like boaters, runners, pet owners. Hey, I've got 1 million friends that would love to have their dog's picture on their Visa card. Hey, we just increased sales. So when you pull at your customers' heartstrings and you get to something that's important to them, you're not only making a sale, you're making a friend. So this data, these data points are not just dots on a graph. These are people's lives.
Yeah.
So we have to respect that. We don't want to spam them. We don't want to, send them 14 emails a day. We don't even want to send them an email every day.
Yeah.
But we do want to strike up their interest. We could ask them, do you have a social media account? Social media analytics, and I know we're going to get that with martech and adtech, that's a vital part of marketing. Social media, I can go on there and find out stuff via Twitter that I didn't know about my customer. So why not ask them for their social media information? Tell them, hey, follow American Express or Discover or Hershey or Kraft on our social media sites. Use your social media sites through Facebook. If your customer is complaining about something, address it immediately.
Yeah.
This is how we make one happy customer will bring you 100 happy customers.
Absolutely.
But one really pissed off, mad customer could ruin your entire business.
Absolutely.
So what you know about your customer is so very important, and it's not just about name, address, phone number, and where you're from. We want to know about you. We want to be able, data marketing was always meant to help serve you better. not to data mine you and just find out all your secrets. It was about being able to provide a service, to be able to, like a recommendation engine. That's part of machine learning. Other customers that bought this also bought that. Well, hey, I'm looking down at that and I'm like, hey, you're right. I bought this, and that would make a really great complementary item to add to my little basket up there for my sales. That is a great use of machine learning. Like pictorially, 10 years ago, machine learning didn't know the difference between a Chihuahua and a chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
Now we've got 10 more years under our belt. Remember Google 10 years ago when you asked it a question and it showed you stuff that was not relative to you at all? Well, it's gotten a lot better. So it's learning. The more information, and I still mean learning. So the more information that you're putting into these machines, into these algorithms, into these databases, lets us be able to provide you a much better service, more tailored and personalized to your true needs.
Yeah. No, very well put. And actually, I will come back to some of the thoughts that you expressed here towards the end of our conversation. But moving forward, we kind of discussed machine learning and the role of AI and martech and adtech solutions and social media tools that are now available. What, in your opinion, is their role to help create a more meaningful data strategy? You touched upon it, but from a marketing perspective and from an organization's perspective, what role can this play as part of the data strategy?
Well, I think that people misunderstand when we're doing data mining, or, data in, garbage out, the old saying. The mindset is that we have to know everything, about what it is that we're trying to do. A lot of things, when we're looking into gray areas like artificial learning, machine intelligence, and things like that, we have to learn as we go. Now, we overgeneralize a little too much sometimes. We've got 1,000 records, and actually, I think, Amazon and Google, gotten in a little bit of trouble themselves. So they look back at 10 years worth of hiring data and they think, oh, well, our best employees have been males between the age of 26 and 35. No, that's just because that's all the data that you have. Most of your employees in the past 10 years have been males between, 28 and 35. So we have to understand bias. We have to understand that overgeneralizing is not necessarily going to put us in a good light. So I think that's a lot of people ask, did you have a gut feeling, or was it all data? I can look at the data, but I have to understand the base of the data. If I'm saying 50% of something, I don't want to mean that yesterday I sold 2 and today I sold 4. Now I have a 200% jump in sales. I want to be able to put that into perspective, that people can understand. So, having all this talent around you in your working environment and letting your people be able to learn as they go, because not everybody's got 23 years of experience and understands data hierarchy and how biases are bad. So ensure that your employees have continuous learning. Things, change as far as software and things like that. But logic and data hierarchy doesn't change. Mathematics doesn't change. Statistics doesn't change. What changes is maybe the way we think about things like that. Now people think, oh, well, data science, that's a great way for me to find out more about what's going on with my data. So it's become more analytical, more scientific, where it used to be seen as kind of, they're unicorns. They don't really exist. There's no one out there that really understands data structure and business and statistics and programming. Oh, yeah, I do. And I have for over 23 years, so, let your people learn, let them grow, let them see what can be done, show them examples of how things have been used to make corporations better, databases better? How can we make our analytics faster? Well, index your data. There are simple ways to do things that I think people just get caught up in the buzzwords of it. If we really break it down logically and think systematically what these things do, we'll all have a better understanding of data science and analytics as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Carla, in the previous question, you did mention that you need to use data to serve the customers, and I think that was a very important point that you make. And I think we are all trying to deliver great customer experiences, and that's why we want to use data-driven strategies to do it. But in your opinion, how can companies use that data effectively to deliver great customer experiences and ensure that there's delight and not a feeling that somebody's being chased or somebody's being haunted and followed around because of some information they've given you at some point of time?
Right. Well, that's because everybody wants a more tailored and personalized experience. No one wants to just feel like they're one of a million other people out there. So the more you know about your customer, and that's what we were talking about, more personalized things, like social media and things like that, that's how you get to understand your customer. It's not just about having information on them. Like, I know where they were when they were born. I know, when their birth date is, or I know their sex or their gender, or things like that. None of that information is really relevant. What I want to know, if you're a single mother with 3 children, what type of products can we present to you that you would be interested in? And only you, because that's what we all want. We are in the day of instant gratification. We turn on Netflix and Disney and cable and Amazon Prime. We can watch whatever we want, whenever we want to. We can text people, we can call people, we can video, we can Skype, we can Zoom. This has all been personalized to let us do what we want to, when we want to, with whom we want to. That's the kind of experience all buyers want. They don't want you as soon as you walk in the door. Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? No, let me look around for a little bit. And then when you see me scratching my head trying to figure out where something is, then that's when I need help. So look for those cues, whether it be visually, verbally, socially. If a customer says they're about to have a baby, well, then they need lots of things. They need diapers, they need formula, they need health care, they need insurance. So, these things that individual people are saying about themselves in a social media type factor, or even if they give you that information when they're entering, like for your Visa card, they'll always want to know, where do you work? How many people in your family? What's your income? What are your bills? So that they can know when to give you a rate increase, so that know when, hey, she's a little over budget. Maybe we should lower her income thing. She may be getting into trouble. So things like this are all meant to help the end customer. Of course, there's spammers, there's fraudsters, there's people out there that want to take advantage of you. So should you be careful? Absolutely. Never click on some link that somebody sends you. But when it comes time when you're looking for information, we go to Google reviews. We go and we see what other people's opinion are. So we know that that's important. So we have to keep that in mind when we're marketing to people, that they want that personalized, tailored experience.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you for giving us time. I think we've got some wonderful insights, as simple as they may sound, but very profound and very meaningful in the context of what we are also trying to accomplish through this platform that we've created in trying to demystify technology, demystify analytics and data to help and enable marketers to understand the subject better. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and you have a wonderful day.